5 takeaways on President Trump's massive tariffs that are even steeper than expected. Washington. President Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs Wednesday affecting all U.S. trading partners and imports, plowing ahead on a risky economic strategy that promises to further accelerate a global trade war and raise anxieties about higher consumer prices at home. Trump hailed the massive tariffs as a declaration of economic independence, arguing the far-reaching duties will rejuvenate the nation's declining manufacturing sector. "We're standing up for the American worker, and we are finally putting America first," Trump said during a Rose Garden ceremony before signing the tariffs through an executive order. But many economists worry the large-scale tariffs, Trump's most expansive tariffs to date and larger than most experts expected, could further hurt a weakening economy, send the stock market plummeting, and even lead to a recession. Here are 5 takeaways from Trump's long-awaited tariffs. A 10% baseline tariff for all countries. Trump's tariff plan includes a 10% baseline tariff on goods from all countries, a dramatic shift in current U.S. trade policy. Trump declared a national emergency on trade in the U.S., which imported $1.2 trillion more in goods in 2024 than it exported, as legal grounds to invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 to issue the tariffs. "We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries," Trump said, adding that a single shipyard in China produces more ships every year than all U.S. shipyards combined. Chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life, he added. The baseline tariff applies to about 285 countries. In all, even the uninhabited Heard and McDonald Islands, remote external territories of Australia in the sub-Antarctic Indian Ocean that have more penguins and seals than people and no apparent trade activity. Reciprocal tariffs target about 60 additional countries. Trump said he is imposing additional, tailored tariffs on about 60 countries that contribute the most to the U.S. trade deficit and have placed the most barriers on U.S. exports. White House officials called the countries the worst offenders. Rates of the targeted tariffs have been set at about half what these countries charge on U.S. exports. Southeast Asian countries are among the nations hit with the highest reciprocal tariffs, led by Cambodia, 49%, Laos, 48%, and Vietnam, 46%. New duties for other major U.S. trading partners include an additional 34% tariff on goods from China, a 20% tariff on goods from nations in the European Union, and a 26% tariff on goods from India. For China, the 34% tariff is on top of recently imposed 20% tariffs on Chinese goods, meaning Chinese imports are effectively hit with a 54% tariff. For years, hard-working American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense, Trump said. But now it's our turn to prosper. Russia, North Korea, Cuba, and Belarus are exempt from the tariffs. The White House cited previously imposed sanctions on each that preclude any meaningful trade with these nations. Trump recently threatened sanctions on imports from Russia if President Vladimir Putin does not end the war in Ukraine. Trump's universal 10% tariffs are set to go into effect at 12:00 a.m. EDT Saturday, and his reciprocal tariffs will begin April 9th. Trump's previously announced 25% tariffs on foreign automobiles and auto parts will also kick in this week. Mexico and Canada exempt from new tariffs. Neighboring Mexico and Canada are exempt also from Trump's latest tariffs, but the 25% tariffs that Trump previously levied on both countries will remain intact. Trump levied those tariffs last month as retaliation to the flow of fentanyl from both countries and migrants from Mexico. He later agreed to exempt goods that fall under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, a trade deal Trump signed in his first term. Imports from Canada and Mexico that are compliant with the USMCA-compliant goods will continue to see a 0% tariff, according to the White House, while non-USMCA-compliant goods will be hit with a 25% tariff. Non-compliant energy products from these countries and potash, key ingredient to make fertilizer used by farmers, will face a lower 10% tariff. Economists fear economic downturn. Economists expressed alarm at the scale of Trump's across-the-board tariffs, saying they're even larger than expected and warning that an economic downturn could result.